It's Wednesday. It's time for the Word of the Week. And our Word of the Week this week is lactizo, I kick. It appears only once. It's in Acts chapter 26, verse 14. And let us take a look first up in English in the ESV. And when we had all fallen to the ground, I heard a voice saying to me in the Hebrew language, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads. So before we look at the Koine, what is a goad? We talk about goading people, but a goad in the ancient world is a pointed stick used to prod oxen or other beasts of burden. And so kicking back against the goad will only hurt the ox, right? You're kicking a stick, an inanimate object. If the ox kicks against the goad, it's going to hurt itself. It's not hurting me or my feelings. But in the quote here, in Acts chapter 26, Jesus speaking to Saul says, it is hard for you to kick against the goads. So that's the phrase we're looking at in Koine. Let's look at it. Skleron, like sclerosis, hard, it is hard. Soi, to or for you. Pros, against. Kentra, goads. Lactidzane, to kick. So it is hard for you to kick against the goads or the prods. So this phrase is a direct quote from Euripides' Bacchae or Bacchae, depending on how you choose to pronounce it. So Euripides writes the Bacchae in the 5th century BC, so over 400 years before Saul of Tarsus is on the road to Damascus. Euripides publishes the Bacchae. And in lines 794 and 795, we get, it's line 794 is what's quoted here in Acts chapter 26. And then the rest of it is line 795. Let's take a look at both of them. So, Skleron soi pros kentra lactidzane. Holy smokes, look at that. It is verbatim, it is identical. So what we read in Acts chapter 26 is a verbatim quote of Euripides the Bacchae, line 794. It is hard for you to kick against the goads. But now, line 795 gives us thneton onta pros theon. So, onta is a participle, being, while being. Thneton is mortal, while being mortal. Thneton is sort of an older form of mortal, because we're reading classical Greek in the 5th century BC. Pros theon, against a god. It is hard for you to kick against the goads while being a mortal against a god. Okay, so in Acts chapter 26, the second part isn't there, but the context is quite relevant, isn't it? Saul of Tarsus resisting God, trying to push him in a direction. There's something interesting here that we need to talk about. The encounter on the Damascus Road is recorded 3 times by Luke in the book of Acts. The first time is Acts chapter 9, verse 4 through 6. It's sort of Paul's origin story, right? He's on the road to Damascus, going away from God's calling, and he's stricken down and blinded, and hears Christ speak to him. It's me, Jesus, whom you're persecuting, and he turns him in a different direction and sends him on his way. No longer Saul, but Paul, an apostle, according to the story. The next time is in Acts chapter 22, verses 6 through 10, where he's speaking to Jewish elders and priests, etc. But the last time is Acts 26, where he's speaking to King Agrippa II. King Agrippa II is the great-grandson of Herod the Great. He is a client ruler. He is a vassal. So he is the king, but he is an under-king under Roman control. So he's a Hellenized Jew. He was educated in Rome, and he has a Hellenized worldview. So what? So accepting Luke's 3 accounts, the first time that we hear the story of the Damascus Road, it's just what Saul hears from Jesus on the road. The second time, he's talking to a Jewish audience, and it doesn't make any sense for him to evoke Euripides to that Jewish audience. But the third time, what we have is one Roman citizen talking to another, one Hellenized, educated person talking to another. 2 men who would know this famous quote from Euripides exchange it to frame their experience in a context. So why is it absent in the origin story? Why? Because why would Jesus quote Euripides to Saul of Tarsus on his way on the road to Damascus? It wouldn't make any sense, right? Why is Jesus Christ going to quote a 400-year-old play or poem or both by Euripides? It wouldn't make any sense. It wouldn't make any sense to quote it to a Jewish audience. But speaking to the Hellenized Roman client, Roman-educated Agrippa II, it makes sense to put a context into this situation. So what do you think? Do you think on the road to Damascus in chapter 9, do you think that Jesus quoted Euripides, but Luke didn't include it in the chapter 9 account or in the chapter 22 account? Or is it more likely that Paul, knowing his audience and being an educated and Hellenized person himself, chose to include this quote from Euripides in the story to, if not manipulate, at least to contextualize the story in a way that Agrippa II would really hear and get? It's hard to kick against the goads, you a mere mortal against a god, right? Because that's the fullness of the Euripides quote, even though it's left hanging here in Acts chapter 26. So our word of the week, lactizo, I kick. But the phrase in question, the quote from Euripides, skleron soi pros kentra lactizein. It is hard for you to kick against the goads, being a mortal against God. Right. Great stuff. Hope that was good for you. If you liked it, please like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. And until next time, Kars Kai Rene Humin, grace and peace to you.